Hi there, it's Nicole, and today I'm sharing some no-line Distress Ink watercolored florals with the Altenew Amazing You stamp set and coordinating dies. It is so super easy to get some amazing no-line looks with distress inks by simply adding a little bit of water and maybe picking up a little bit more color to color in your images. I'm going to start with some of the greenery images from the Amazing You stamp set, stamped on Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'm going to press a couple of those inks into an acrylic block, and then I'm going to use a water brush pen to pull the ink from the stamped line and also pick up a little additional ink that I've placed on my block there to lay down in the image to add some color. I love these greens together. I'm using Mowed Lawn, that's what the image is stamped with, and then I'm adding in some Twisted Citron as well to lay down my color. Very, very easy to do. It's a great way to get that watercolored look and a great way to leave out the stamped lines and just keep the color right with what you've stamped with. So I want all this greenery to be green, not have any of those black stamped lines. This is a great way to achieve that. The water brush is fantastic. I like to use mine with water in it. If you want to have a little bit more control about over how much water is released with the pen when you're blending, you can go ahead and leave the water out of it and just pick up a little bit of water with the tip of your paintbrush, or you can use traditional paintbrushes as well. I've stamped a couple more greenery images that I am going to be using, plus some of the flowers from the Amazing You stamp set. These are stamped with fossilized amber. And then I'll be coloring those in, adding in some squeezed lemonade. Most of the squeezed lemonade does get covered up. I'm using more of the fossilized amber than anything, as well as a little wild honey here to get some nice dimension. Just pulling in a little bit more of this color. As this dries, it definitely is going to give that very watercolored look. Move down to another flower. You can see I accidentally dropped my block with that other large flower there. That's why it's got that little smudge underneath, so I'm not using that one. Color in this image as well as the more kind of bud image here of the flower. Make sure and do the rest of my greenery with my greens. Go ahead and press those back into my block. Pick up a little bit more color, darken up some areas. You can even go over the stems themselves with the tip of your paintbrush to blend it out a little bit more if you want to. I love the Bristol cardstock for that nice smooth finish. This technique also looks amazing on actual watercolor paper. I'm going to go back now with a little abandoned coral ink and blend in just a little touch of that here and there with my large yellow flowers for some more depth and dimension. Not too much, just a little bit. In fact, I'll go back and blend out some of that just a little bit that I thought was a little too harsh. I'm going to stamp some additional flowers with abandoned coral. Blend those out just a tiny bit here. This is going to give me a little bit of variety. I want the majority of the card to be in greens and yellows, but I like these little touches of kind of red. A little fired brick distress ink will add some additional dimension. I tried a different color combination there. You can see below the smaller yellow flower, and it just blended too much. I didn't really like it. It was too orangey and too similar, I felt, to the yellow. I wanted something a little more red, so I went ahead and stamped two other blooms, and I'm coloring them both in with abandoned coral and fired brick distress inks. Now, once I have this done, it's really important to either let this sit and air dry, which is what I prefer, or if you're in a hurry, hit it with a heat tool before you die cut the images. I will be die cutting all of the images with the coordinating Amazing You dies. I've got another piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock here cut to 4 inches by 5¼ inches, and I'm going to just blend in some Twisted Citron and Squeezed Lemonade Distress inks to give my background a little bit of color. I want it to very much emulate the colors of the blooms and be very similar so that everything blends together really nicely. Something very soft and pretty. I love the Squeezed Lemonade and Twisted Citron blended together. Once I have these 2 inks blended, I will spritz it with some water from a distress sprayer and then blot this dry with a paper towel. I like to let it sit for maybe about 20 seconds or so and then blot it dry. And it's going to give me some nice distressing. Now these colors are pretty light, so it's a little harder to see the distressing, but there are some nice light areas, so it gives it that little bit of an imperfect look. I'm going to work with some of the greetings from the Amazing You stamp set now to pick out 2 of them that I think will fit on my card. I'm going to kind of position them in the upper left corner, but I'm going to come down just a tiny bit because I think it'll be really pretty to add a floral up in that top left corner of the card to tie the whole thing together. I'm going to use the Misty to stamp my greetings. That way I can get a really nice dark black stamped greeting, something nice that will really stand out. A lot of times you'll need to stamp an image one on top of another to really get that nice crisp either greeting or image, and I love to use the Misty for this. I'm going to make sure I get those positioned exactly where I want them to go. I can shut the cover to pick up both greetings and then ink those up with my black ink and press that right there to my background. Ink it up again and press that right on top of the first, and that makes a huge difference. I can go ahead and assemble my floral design, kind of coming in from that bottom right corner. Make sure I don't cover up any of the greeting. I want the flowers, some of the edges of the leaves and the flowers to hang off the edges of the card. That's going to ground the images much more. Anything that hangs off the edge I can trim in just a little bit. I started with all of my greenery and yellow flowers first. Then I can tuck in my red blooms here and there to kind of round out that whole design. And that looks perfect. Take my scissors and go ahead and snip all of this off before I work on the rest of it. I will go ahead and add some little dewdrops here with the Nuvo Crystal Drops Morning Dew color. I love this. It's my very favorite. And it's going to just kind of give that illusion of some dewdrops scattered throughout the card design. The dewdrops do take about 24 hours to completely dry. They will be dry to the touch after about an hour or so, but you want to give them probably that full 24 hours to really dry. Now, in the center of the 2 smaller red flowers, I am using the Nuvo Crystal Drops in Red Berry. Just gives it a little bit different look and adds some dimension to the center of both of those flowers. I did stamp and color an additional greenery leaf and stem plus a bud that I'm placing in that upper left corner of the card. Just round it all out. Kind of frames up the greeting really nicely this way. Nice small little images, but it just rounds it all out and frames it up. Again, I'm going to go and add in a few more of those Nuvo Crystal Drops in Morning Dew. I love the way they look, especially on leaves. Once I have all of those, I can trim off any of the rest of the excess. When it's dry, I can go ahead and add some adhesive to my white top fold card base, bring my panel to that card base, press it in place. And I see I forgot to trim off that little leaf, so I'm going to do that real quick. Center it right in the middle of the card and press it down to finish off the design. Thanks for joining me today for this floral designed no-line distress watercolor card featuring the Amazing You stamps and dies from Altenew. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring florals that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.